If you're new to my page, the one thing you're going to realize is that we always start with cars when it comes to mobility. What cars are, they stand for controlled articular rotations. This basically means we're doing a large joint circle. The reason for this is we're going to figure out really quick, one, how much range of motion we have, and two, how much control we have in that range of motion. So a couple things you might notice with cars is they're going to be skippy or shaky, or you might want to use other joints. You want to see how well you can move one joint separate from the other. So when we're performing this ankle car, I'm looking at how well I move truly the ankle without rotating the shin, without moving from the hip. So we are starting with ankle cars here, 5 reps each direction. Really slow and controlled, the slower the better. You'll notice I kind of tend to use my toes a little bit, which isn't always ideal. We try not to. You're going to try to separate your shin moving from your ankle. So like I said, let's warm up with these. If you notice right there, I had a little bit of that skippiness and shakiness. It is totally normal. 5 each direction on each side, just as a warm up. Next up, we got a little bit of a test here. I want to see how well you can sit into plantar flexion. This is difficult for a lot of you. You might not even be able to sit back on your heels. See how far you can go. What we're looking at is, can we actually get our shin down flat onto the ground? From there, we're going to do a repeated plantar flexion. So I'm just going to sit back as far as I can go and then come on out of that. For some of you, you might have to put your hands down in front of you or scale this. It might not be very comfortable, but I want you to sit into that end range position and then come out of it. We're doing about 10 to 15 reps here. One set is plenty. If you want to pause and do another set, you are more than welcome. But get that stretch in the front of the shin, ankle. You might even feel some in the knee, which is normal if you're not used to this position. One of the most common areas that I see people have issues with in their ankles is inversion. So where we typically sprain our ankle, we roll over the side into ankle inversion. What we're going to do here is prep the tissues and get them used to going into inversion. So you're repeatedly trying to put motion into inversion, putting weight towards the outside of that ankle. Now I want you to start being very gentle with this. It can be very uncomfortable per se if you're not used to being in this range of motion. So start with 10 reps here, slowly just kind of adding weight to the outside of that foot. I'm going to switch sides here and do the same thing. Call it about 10 reps. We're doing 2 sets because you're going to see in a second the other set is going to be a little more force. So we're gonna go back to our original ankle. What I'm doing here is I'm getting into inversion and then I'm taking my weight off my other foot. So all my weight is going briefly onto my right ankle here. This might be aggressive for a lot of you. Feel free to go back to just the ankle rolls. If you feel confident and this is not painful, I want you to try to take some weight off of the opposite foot and put most of your weight onto the foot that is in ankle inversion. Remember, our bodies, if they're not prepared for a range of motion that we get ourselves into, that's where injury can happen. Next, let's get in some dorsiflexion. What this is our ability to pick our foot up off the ground, or think about bringing our toes closer to our shin. A lot of you may have done tib raises before, which is a common start for a lot. I put a lot of people into a half kneeling position. So you notice the further my knee is behind my toes, the easier it gets. So I did 5 there. I brought my knee a little further forward. I'm doing another 5 reps. And then I'm gonna bring my knee even further forward into almost my end range, so I'm barely lifting off the ground, which is okay. We don't always have to have a huge range of motion to have a lot of benefit. If you're getting close to your end range and squeezing, that's huge. Let's go the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to start with my knee basically above my ankle. Do 5 good reps here, get warm, get that motion, then progress by pushing the knee forward and then push it forward even more to try to get close to your end range for a total of 15 reps here. Now that we've trained the ankle a good amount, we're going to go back to our ankle cars, but we're changing the base position. So we're going to do this supine, which means laying on your back, leg almost extended. I have a little bit of bend in my knee. Do the same ankle cars here. 1, see how they feel. Are they less shaky, more shaky? It's a different position. You may feel better, you may feel worse here, but 5 reps each direction, slow and controlled. The shin stays out of it. We don't move the hip. It is purely ankle rotation. Last thing we're going to cool down with is a plantar fascia stretch. You are going to keep your toes pushed into the ground, into extension, and now try to sit back onto your heels. This is even more aggressive than the plantar flexion sit we did earlier, but I want you to spend a minute or two here, even if it's only 30 seconds, and just see how well you can lengthen the bottom of your feet. This is super important for ankle dorsiflexion, and it's really necessary for a lot of us because we don't spend time here. As always, feel free to go back, pause at any time, and repeat this as often as you find necessary.